Hello everyone! In this video, I'm going to be working on this MakerGear M2 3D printer. I'm going to be upgrading the V3B extruder to a V4 extruder and replacing the heated build platform. Just to give you a little background, I've had this printer for I think close to 2 years now, give or take, and this printer really has been great. Ever since day one, I've been really impressed by the performance and reliability of this machine. I've used this printer more days than not over the time I've had it, and at this point it is all original. I decided it was time to do some upgrades and repairs after experiencing some extrusion issues and after the heated build platform started emitting smoke and then stopped working. I will be showing you the process of replacing these parts, which will hopefully help anyone interested in doing the same upgrade and repair. One criticism I have about the instructions for this V4 upgrade are the lack of clear images and diagrams. Most of the instructions are written with little or no visual aid, just lines of text. Now, to their credit, the writing is well done, and I was able to understand what was being referred to and didn't encounter any issues understanding the steps. However, to someone less familiar with working on 3D printers, or to someone who doesn't speak or read English well because English isn't their first language, or maybe they don't know English at all, unless MakerGear has really well-written translations, this could be an issue. I don't know how popular MakerGear products are outside of the United States, but regardless, in my opinion, I think MakerGear should provide illustrated diagrams to supplement the text. But hopefully, this video will help by showing all the steps involved to complete this upgrade, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below and I will do my best to answer it. So let's go ahead and get started with upgrading the extruder. As you just saw earlier, I was showing all the parts that come with the V3B to V4 upgrade, and all the tools required as well. One tool that I used but I didn't show is a millimeter ruler to measure all the screws to confirm they are the correct length. The first step is to cut the zip tie on the right side of the filament drive and disconnect the fan wires. Next, we want to remove the fan assembly by removing the M3x40 screw from the upper left hand side of the fan as shown here. Now we can disconnect the remaining 2 wires connected to the extruder assembly and remove the 2 screws holding the filament drive in place. Make sure you are keeping track of all the parts you remove from your printer, and especially keep track of all the screws, as many of these screws will be reused during reassembly. Now we need to cut the 3 zip ties located on top of the motor mount. Then we can loosen the 2 M4x35 screws to allow the motor to slide out of the motor mount. With the motor off, we can access the 4 M3x12 screws that hold the motor mount to the plate on the carriage. Next, remove the plate by removing the 4 M2x16 screws that hold the plate to the belt clamp, and then remove the belt clamp as well. My kit included a new belt, so I'm removing the old one. I could have reduced the tension on the belt by adjusting the X-axis motor, but I kept the motor where it was and didn't have any issues removing or installing the belt. I wanted to clean the X-rail and the X-rail carriage. I removed the stopper at the end of the rail and one of the motor mounting screws so I could slide off the carriage. Since I had great access to the top of the printer and the X-rail, I used this opportunity to clean all the dust and grease off. As you can see, the carriage was looking pretty gross with all the dust that's accumulated on it, so I cleaned and re-greased it and slid it back on the rail. Then I reinstalled the bearings and the belt, which already had the belt clamp attached to it. I reinstalled the stopper and the motor mount screw. Getting back to the extruder, the next step is to install the extruder mounting plate. Make sure you position it like I am here. Use 4 M2 by 18 screws to secure it to the belt clamp. The motor mount on my printer had a crack in it, so I used some super glue to fix it. Now we can install the motor using the 4 M3 by 16 screws included in the kit, and make sure you have the washers in between on the 2 screws facing the back of the printer like I have here. Next, reinstall the extruder motor, just like it was before with the wires facing up, then tighten the 2 M4 screws to secure it in place. Thread 1 M3 by 12 screw into the front of the extruder plate as shown, but do not tighten it. Making sure that the thermostator and cartridge heater are fully inserted into the heater block, insert the hot end assembly so that the top surface is flush or slightly higher than the extruder plate surface, and make sure the wires are to the right as shown, then tighten the screw to hold the hot end in place. Next, place the filament drive onto the motor face as shown, and mount it to the motor using 2 M3 by 25 screws with washers onto the top left and bottom right holes. Make sure the hole at the bottom of the conical protrusion on the filament drive and the hole on top of the hot end line up. If they don't, loosen the 2 screws and adjust the filament drive so that they do. All 3 fans mounted on this printer began getting loud only a few months after purchasing this printer due to what I assume is bad bearings. So I've purchased new fans to replace the old ones, which hopefully these fans will stay quiet for much longer. Of course, if you're not replacing the extruder fans, then you don't have to do what I'm showing right now. But you will need to make some changes to the fan assembly, which I will show after this. So I have reassembled the fan assembly exactly how it was before I replaced the fans. On the V4 extruder, the fan assembly attaches to the filament drive from the bottom left corner of the upper fan instead of the top left corner. So all we have to do is remove the top left and bottom left screw from the top fan and replace the bottom left screw with the included M3 by 45mm screw. After that, the fan assembly can be installed onto the filament drive. Next, reconnect all the cables. The bottom larger fan plugs into fan 0, and the smaller top fan plugs into fan 1, and the hot end plugs have different plugs on each end, so they cannot be plugged in wrong. Use a zip tie to keep all the wires out of the way of the fans and hot end, and use 3 zip ties to hold the top wire loom cover in place. Now that the extruder is complete, we need to adjust the Z end stop. First step is to remove the Z end stop clamp by loosening the 2 M3 screws. Next, remove the electronics from the plastic piece by removing the 2 M2.5 screws. And here is the new Z end stop clamp. Secure the switch to the clamp using the same M2.5 by 14 screws that were just removed, and carefully press the red light into the hole as shown. Now place the clamp onto the shaft and thread the M3 by 25 screw, but do not tighten it. Then push the piece all the way to the top of the shaft and orient it so the red light faces the right side of the printer, and then lightly tighten the clamp, being careful not to over-tighten. And that concludes the V4 upgrade. The only thing left to do after this is to adjust the Z end stop by rotating this bolt up and down so that the end stop switch is pressed when the print bed is the correct distance from the nozzle, and make any adjustments that might be necessary in the control software you are using. Next thing I wanted to do was replace the heated build platform. As I said earlier, the original bed started smoking while heating up in preparation of a print, probably caused by a short. Thankfully, there was no damage to anything other than the heated build platform, so I ordered a new one and installed it as shown. Replacing the heated build platform was very simple. My only advice for anyone doing this would be to make sure you are reconnecting the wires to the electronics board in the right direction. I used a container to hold up the bed carrier so I could get to the electronics board easier. I unplugged the cooling fan and SD card reader for better access. While I had the cover taken off, I went ahead and replaced the 40mm cooling fan. I'm not sure how critical it is, but I made sure the fan wires were pointing the same direction as they were before. And here are the two wires that go to the heated build platform. Again, make sure you are plugging in the thermostat plug the correct way. Once everything was plugged back in, I reinstalled the SD card reader and the cover. The platform just sits on 4 rubber holders, one on each corner. I'm not sure if you have to completely remove all of them, but it's easy enough to do it that way. And after all 4 corners were screwed down, the heated build platform is solid. They included a bunch of zip ties and some other things to hold the wire loom in place, which is great. I'm glad they included as much as they did. As you may have noticed, the new build platform has a different wiring loom, and I think it might be a different length, so I'm connecting it differently than how it was before. As long as it's out of the way and not getting overstretched, it really doesn't matter how it's mounted. That is all for this video. I filmed this maybe 2 months ago, and I'm just now getting it edited and uploaded. Over the last 2 months, I've used this printer a lot, and everything has been working perfectly. After comparing prints I made with the V4 extruder to prints I made with the old V3B extruder when the printer was new, I haven't really noticed any huge quality difference between the two hot ends when printing with PLA or ABS plastic. but I definitely prefer the design and ease of changing the hot end of the V4 over the V3B, and I believe the V4 can reach higher temperatures as well. So if you want to see more videos with 3D printers and about 3D printing, be sure to give this video a like and leave a comment down below. My primary focus of this channel is RC vehicles, but I can definitely do more 3D printing content as well if you want to see it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe for more content every single week. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.